Welcome to the Rise Inside podcast, hosted by Justin Starbird and powered by Rise Robotics. Listen as host Justin talks to experts from the Rise team about topics relating to mechanical engineering, industrial design, commercialization, and innovation. True collaborations work when ideas are integrated at inception to solve significant problems. Rise Inside brings together how the team continues to work with great folks to commercialize ideas. You're listening to the Rise Inside podcast. Here is your host, Justin Starbird.
Welcome back to Rise Inside. My name is Justin Starbird, and I'm fortunate today to be able to introduce Helena Gittelman, a business development manager with NRW Global Business. Helena, thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Justin. Good to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Oh man, it's my pleasure. Ken Gray, our director of business development here at Rise, speaks very highly of you, and I'm so thrilled to have the opportunity to learn more about NRW and what it is that you do.
Thank you.
So, tell me about NRW Global and the kinds of companies that you work with.
Sure. NRW Global Business is the economic development agency of the German state of North Rhine-Westphalia. It is one of 16 German states, and North Rhine-Westphalia is quite a mouthful for English speakers. So we can just shorten that to NRW. That's what Germans do too. It is really Germany's economic powerhouse. It is a leader in logistics, energy, industrials, and precision engineering. If you think about the size of the economy of NRW, it's comparable to that of the Netherlands, Japan, Saudi Arabia, for example, and it sits at the Dutch, Belgian, and French border. Now that's the region itself, but an economic development agency such as ours is there to provide the resources to help companies enter our market, to found a office, a manufacturing plant, what be it, and succeed in our region and beyond.
And that sounds so exciting because it's such a unique part of the world, and you're right in the center of everything. It's got to be a treasure trove of companies and innovations that you get to see every day. No?
Yeah, from my perspective, the most exciting thing that I get to do, aside from helping companies for free, is to hear about innovative products, to really understand and get to know where markets in different sectors are going.
So what is your role specifically with NRW, and where do you sit?
I sit in Chicago, and I am lucky to represent NRW in the North American market. So I speak to US and Canadian companies all day long about their goals and help them make that move across the pond.
Is it one of those things where they're just like, hey, this is just too good to be true?
Yes, absolutely. People say, what's the catch? What's the commitment? What do you expect in return? It often takes some convincing that this is a free service, that it's a government-funded service, and that we are there to be a company's compass in our region. Again, provide these resources, introductions, welcome them when they're ready to make that tour of NRW, and again that we do that simply to be their intro to our market.
Absolutely. You mentioned while we were offline that there is a marketing problem, if you will, with the economic development groups. And then, I hear you talk about the services and the location and, the different platforms that you offer to companies that participate. Why do you think there's such an issue with marketing or getting companies involved?
If I had to venture a guess, I imagine it's a public-private marketing issues, especially for US markets, because in the US, government and business is really much more at arm's length, whereas the European approach is such that there's an understanding that public and private can help each other, can benefit. And so, I think that's really something that we need to overcome.
I think that's an education piece that the Rise has learned, more recently in this iteration of the business, because, now we're, a dual technology company that one of our largest customers could potentially become the U.S. government. So I think it's something that we're now more open to and more aware of. And speaking of that, how did you, get introduced to Rise? I think this is a fun story.
I have the pleasure of getting out of Chicago and going to trade shows around North America. And in preparation for my trip to the battery show in Novi, Michigan, I came across Rise. I saw that Rise was going to be on site. And as I did my light research, I was really inspired, taken by the possibilities that exist in material handling when applying the Rise technology. So the excitement was also because our region is such a good fit for Rise. Turn that on its head. Rise has so many opportunities in our region because of the concentration of material handling and the focus in green energy. So I just knew I had to speak to Rise. And after a virtual conversation with Ken, I was so thrilled to meet him and the team on site. And I don't know, Justin, do you want me to get into what that was like?
Yeah, of course. I love to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you enter the hall and you can't miss Rise's giant display right in the front. A giant, I think it must have been a concrete block being lifted up and down.
Several concrete blocks, yes.
Yes, it was just fabulous. So you see immediately, this is the product, this is what it can do. I mean, a picture speaks a million words, but what was just as impressive was seeing the team, the junior, I believe, engineers, people across the board who came on site, as well as some senior team members, all collectively had this amazing energy and excitement, absolutely infectious. People, I think they were wearing matching t-shirts, and there was a certain buzz around the Rise exhibit, the Rise stand, that no one else at this show had. Yeah. And it really drove home the potential that I saw at Rise, that I recognized just from my research. I mean, a thousandfold once I saw the team and the product in person, and those were my words to Ken as well. That there is so much outstanding technology around, but whether the technology succeeds and makes a difference, I think, depends on whether the team has the drive, the cohesiveness, and the energy to put ideas into practice, ideas into product, what be it. I think that's really what sets you all apart and makes me so excited about you all coming to NRW.
Absolutely. I mean, in my experience with the team for, the last period of time, it's certainly a culture where best idea wins. And when you have that kind of culture, then it everybody has, has a skin in the game. And when everyone's pulling in the same direction, and then, success starts to happen, then everybody can share in it. It's not that it was just one person's idea. And I think that is the energy that you felt, because there was weeks and months and years of, blood, sweat, and tears that went into being able to showcase that, and, take the previous iterations and turn it into something that is a desirable outcome for the likes of NRW. And I got to believe that, it's got to be really exciting for you to come to work every day, to experience that, not just with Rise, but with other companies you work with. No?
Yeah, certainly. That you really pinpointed one of the things that I love most, that I get to speak to people who are passionate about what they're doing and the story that they're telling and the thing that they're creating that will make an impact in the world. And those are the companies that I tend to see be most successful.
So speaking of successful companies and partnerships and clients of NRW, I know there's a lot going on for the partnership or potential partnership with Rise, because we're not there yet. But how do you generally work with companies, if they are to engage with NRW?
We are there to understand the goals and the roadmap that the company has created for itself, and to facilitate the connections and the resources to help make that roadmap, those goals along the way, a reality. So that might mean introductions to ecosystems, to service providers such as international attorneys or accountants. It might mean meeting them in NRW, driving them around, getting a real physical feel for the space. Some of the things that we're most excited about are when we get to introduce to innovation hubs, ecosystems that really drive forward the state of technology in, again, green tech, material handling, telco, engineering, so it really depends on what the company is looking for, where the company's at. Are we in a pre-seed stage? Are we very mature? And we meet you at that point and help make those goals a reality.
So we touched on it a little bit earlier about expectations. You mentioned that, this is a free program, that, there aren't any, contracts per se, but, what is the expectation at the end? Let's say a company does decide to work with NRW. What does that actually mean? And what is the expectation at the end?
Thankfully, there are no expectations. Our hope is that a company decides that NRW is the right fit for them. But really, it's not too good to be true. The reality is that we are there to showcase what exists in our state, and bring companies to our region so that we continue to be a leader, a central place for innovation and progress. But certainly, if we're not the right fit, we're happy to see companies go elsewhere and succeed somewhere else.
You had mentioned that you go to trade shows, and you do some outward marketing to reach companies. How do they find you, though? And if they want to be considered, how do they go about that?
They can Google us, NRW Global Business. They can visit us at nrwglobalbusiness.com. Search for us on LinkedIn. That would be another great place to connect. We have stands at a few trade shows. We'll be at South by Southwest in March. We would love to connect with any listeners there. Really all the conventional ways you would find us on the internet.
One of the other ways that you've talked about, or that we discussed offline, was some of the virtual events that you're doing.
Ah,
How has that, helped you reach a new audience, and how do you work with the current NRW companies to showcase what they've done and be kind of an exhibit for future potential companies?
yeah. So, because I have I'm in the fortunate position of being a generalist. It's my job to understand business development generally. When I see a strong interest in a certain industry, such as logistics or green energy, those are two of the topics that I cover myself. I find one or two or three experts in that field in NRW, invite a group of North American companies and put on events that showcase, highlight innovation in certain areas. For example, we put on an event not too long ago with Duisport, which is the world's largest inland port. It's in NRW, and a group called SPIN, which is the Cluster for Cross-Industrial Innovation. And they're two groups that are really working hard to harness technological advancement to improve the use of energy in material handling, in carbon emission reductions. So a lot of the topics in that event, the main focus was what partnerships can we create, and what are the projects those partnerships can carry out to see how technology can be applied to make us all more efficient and greener.
Awesome. I'm familiar with the port, and it is beautiful. I think the team here at Rise has, seen that, and I know that there's a lot of discussion about what's next there as well. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited as well.
So what's next for NRW and your role specifically?
We're happy to get back out there again after this last wave of COVID. South by Southwest is going to be great. We have a community stand with a few other German partners. While I love to put on virtual events, in person, I think is just gold. As I mentioned, for Rise, you can't replace the energy and the kind of serendipitous nature of in-person meetings. So being out there and getting to know some new startups and new stories and products is really the most exciting thing for me right now.
Absolutely. Well, Helena, thank you so much for joining me today and for this episode. This has been really awesome to hear about your story about NRW, that region of the world, and how you're continuing to push the envelope in a whole host of areas. So thank you so much for joining me.
Justin, thank you so much for having me. I'm a big fan of Rise, and I feel very fortunate that I was able to talk about our region and how excited we are about you all.
Great. Well, you've been listening to the latest episode of Rise Inside. Till next time, my name is Justin Starbird.
You have been listening to the Rise Inside podcast, presented by Rise Robotics. On behalf of our guest today and host Justin Starbird, thank you for listening. Please share your feedback on our LinkedIn page, linkedin.com/company/rise-robotics.